What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today got another Slade Top 10 Songs reactions brought to us by our friend, longtime supporter, patron of the channel, and Slade superfan, Evan David. Thank you, Evan David. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below or the patron link on the end screen. We could not do it without the patrons running a free trial. Go check it out. All right, Evan David does all these write-ups for me. Before we get to that, just a reminder, the music won't be in the video, but it will be at the Vimeo link below, so go check that out. Now, if you want to know a ton of information about Slade, go watch the first top 10 that Evan David did. He'll reference it in this write-up, and I'm going to put the link down below. Great background on him, but this is a little abridged background on him. Rock and roll legend has it that the beginnings of the band that will become Slade can be traced back to Wolverhampton, England in 1966, when the former members of several defunct local groups, namely vocalist guitarist Neville Noddy Holder, bassist Jim Lee, guitarist Dave Hill, and drummer Don Powell, first came together under the name The Inn, with just the letter N betweens, changing their name to Ambrose Slade 3 years later. As mentioned last time in the other top 10, this unusual name owed its inspiration to an anonymous record company secretary who liked to name her belongings and who thus had a handbag called Ambrose and a pair of shoes called Slade. By the dawning of the decade, the band, who had further shortened their name simply to Slade under the encouragement of their new manager, ex-Animals bassist and former manager Jimi Hendrix, Chaz Chandler, were finally ready to capitalize on their growing reputation as a truly formidable live act by releasing a barnstorming Little Richard cover, Get Down and Get With It, of which more later, tease there, as a single, then proceeded to reach number 16 in the UK singles charts in mid-1971. So began Slade's legendary run of largely singles-based success in their homeland, which would see them achieve a staggering 17 consecutive UK top 20 hits over the next few years, many of whose titles also feature the band's trademark misspelling, which we're going to get on this too, 6 of which went all the way to number 1 in the UK, including, among others, the fantastic glam rock classics Mama We're All Crazy Now and Come On Feel the Noise, both of which, of course, were covered lucratively by Quiet Riot in the US in the 80s. And culminating in the release of the song, which will make them truly musically immortal for decades to come, namely, in my view, Evan David's view, the greatest British Christmas song of all time. See my other top 10 on that for proof. Little spoiler. The seminal Merry Christmas, Everybody in December 1973. Ever since, as music writer Bob Stanley memorably puts it, that particular festive song, quote, has kept Slade on the radio at least once a year and reminded everyone how much giddy fun they had been in the first place. If you took a survey tomorrow, Slade could well be the best loved band in English pop history. Oh, big statement, end quote. Small wonder then that Slade are indeed officially the most successful British group of the 70s in terms of UK sales alone. However, and despite numerous attempts to do so, some of which may well, alongside general changes in musical fashion, follow the waning of the glam rock era that Slade had done so much to define, have helped to derail the band's commercial fortunes back home to a large extent during the latter half of the 70s. They were somehow never able to truly transfer their chart-topping magic to America. I mean, not even close. Even at the height of their sense of staggering success elsewhere, for reasons which were again explored more fully in my previous Slade Top 10. Such would be the case until 1984, when their Celtic-tinged jig, Run, Runaway, finally made significant inroads on the U.S. singles chart following the success of its irresistibly tongue-in-cheek video on MTV, finally giving Slade a much-deserved taste of the American success that they had craved for so long. That's the first time this guy ever heard of Slade. I actually bought that cassette. As such, and while that late career success in turn will be sadly somewhat short-lived for reasons which are again explained more fully in my previous Slade Top 10, and with the original group disbanding in 1992, it is still somewhat comforting for long-term Slade fans like myself to think that the band has indeed largely retained much of its wider popularity to this day, as evidenced in part by the fact that as of this writing, Sean's reaction to that self-same first Slade Top 10 list of mine remains by far the most successful video in terms of views that I myself have yet contributed to the hallowed annals of RTTC. Thus, and as I begin my 5th year as a happy patron of RTTC this month, which is greatly appreciated, I thought it fitting to return to the scene of my previous crime, so to speak, and attempt to expand upon it by further introducing Sean to 10 more of the cracking songs which helped make Slade, as our fellow glam rocker, and subject to one of my other previous top 10s, Alice Cooper once put it, quote, the coolest band in England. They're the kind of guys that would push your car out of a ditch, end quote. As ever, therefore, and while this list of big hits and personal favorites should not be seen as definitive in any way, and nor should its predecessor, hopefully between the 2 Slade Top 10 lists that I have thus concocted, there is once more ample room for friendly debate and discussion as to the relative merits and look forward to seeing other Slade fans in the RTTC community and beyond come up with their own Slade top 10 list in the comments below. It only remains for me to highly recommend the recently released biography, Whatever Happened to Slade When the Whole World Went Crazy, ZEE, of course, by author Daryl Easley, which will have some quotes from him in this, for anyone who wishes to delve still further into the band's illustrious history after watching this video, and its predecessor, of course. Links below. And ask Sean and the RTTC audience to get ready to feel the noise again and thus rediscover just why Slade are for life, not just for Christmas. All right, once again, a reminder, music won't be in the video, Vimeo link below. Let's jump into it. With song number 10, Get Down and Get With It. As alluded to above, Evan David says his foot-stomping Little Richard cover was first released as the band's debut single in May 1971, reaching number 16 in the charts, befitting his longtime fan favorite status amongst Slade's already passionate live following. As Noddy Holder himself once recalled, quote, "The skinheads used to love that bit as at the finish, where you put your hands in the air and take your boots off and all that," end quote. Further remarking elsewhere that right until the end of our careers, that's the song we closed the set with before our encores. Evan David says, as such, I'd like you to please react to this clip of the song being performed live on the short-lived and oddly titled British pop TV show 2Gs and the Pop People in June of 1972. All right, it's going to be 6 different videos in this, so you definitely want to click on that Vimeo link so you can see them. Thanks again, Evan David. Let's get it. All right, Get Down and Get With It. A fun performance. Not singing live, so, you know, when you watch these live performances where they're not singing live, you just got to get something out of the entertainment and the visual. It's cool because they were showing who each guy was so young, either 22 or 20 for every single guy, like insane. You know, they looked much older, which is just kind of crazy, but good job. A lot of energy. Noddy always just, you know, his vocals are good. His vocals fit a Little Richard song, right? And they fit it well. So like having the drummer up front as well. Something you see in a lot of older videos. You never see it now, but it's kind of cool, like you're on an equal, and then somewhere along the line, we just pumped him in the back, man. But all right, good pick for number 10. Let's get to number 9. We have Darling, Be Home Soon. We're going to listen to the Slade Alive version. Evan David says, while Slade, of course, remains most famous as a consummate singles-oriented band, as already mentioned above, they began their careers boasting an already formidable reputation as a live act, for reasons which this extract from the group's seminal live album, Slade Alive, released in March 1972, reaching number 2 in the UK albums charts. In particular, it goes on to amply demonstrate. As Noddy Holder's trademark foghorn-like bellow leads the way in trance mortifying this cover of one of my favorite bands and the subject of my very first RTTC Top 10, The Loving Spoonful's finest songs, and taking it into strange but still awesome new places. As such, I'm sure that even while listening to the Spotify audio-only version of the Stellar Live song, you'll soon see why one of my other favorite subjects to write about for RTTC, namely Joey Ramone, once remarked, quote, I spent most of the early 70s listening to Slade Alive and thinking to myself, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to make that kind of intensity for myself. A couple years later, I was at CBGB's doing my best, Noddy Holder. All right, Darling, Be Home Soon, the live version. Really good. They sounded great live. A different kind of arrangement for them. Obviously, it's not their song, but more straight up, just rock performance. Great guitar work in there. So I was really impressed by that. Except at number 8, we got Look What You Done. You see the spelling. First released as a single in January 72, reaching 4 in the UK. This barnstorming tune, as Daryl Easley, the guy who wrote the book that Evan Davis referenced in the start, aptly puts it, was enough like their previous number 1 hit, Cause I Love You, to offer a trademark sound, but also develop the formula with arguably Hill's greatest guitar solo on record, end quote. Evan Davis says, this time I'd like you to please react to this clip that will be performed on yet another British pop TV show in June of 1972, the Set of 6 program, as it captures us the sense of joyful, if not near riotous, audience participation, which Slade always sought to deliver on stage to a proverbial T. All right, Look What You've Done. A nice performance, right? Getting after it. It's funny, the cameraman kept zooming in on the people sitting down, not all the people standing up, so I don't know what they're doing there. Evan David had mentioned to me in the notes, I just didn't read it to you, that, you know, some of these videos, they're very old, so the quality is not going to be great, which, I mean, I'm just glad we still have them. But on this one, it was hard to really get a great feel for the song because the audio was so washed out. I mean, it seems like a good song, but I'm not going to get the same feel as I did for the last song, which is coming off Spotify directly in my ears, or even the first one that had a little better quality, and obviously it wasn't sung live, but still a really good song. Next up, we have Everyday. First released as a single in March of 74, reaching 3 in the UK singles chart, 97 in the US. This wistful, melancholy ballad had a somewhat unusual origin in that a significant chunk of it, in fact, was written not by the band's usual songwriting duo of Jim Lee and Noddy Holder, but by Lee's wife, Louise. As Daryl Easley explained it, it seems that she, quote, came up with the original melody and words for the tune at an evening with friends around Lee's house where everyone had a go at improvising a song, for which she failed to receive credit, something which was finally revised in the early 2020s. Regardless of its specific origins, however, for my money, this still remains one of Slade's most emotionally powerful tunes, albeit perhaps evoking different emotions than the ones usually associated with Slade, as I hope you will agree. For sure not what I expected from Slade. I think Naughty's very underrated because in glam rock, as they got pigeonholed in, and I know they kind of cross multiple genres, but you don't have to have a great voice. A lot of those guys did, and a lot of those guys didn't. I mean, just like several other genres of music, but Naughty really has so much power and emotion in his voice, and you can feel it channeled. He was super talented, great guitar solo in there. I really enjoyed it. All right, to finish off the top half of Evan David's second top 10 Slade list, we got We'll Bring the House Down. First released as a single in January 1981, reaching number 10 in the UK. The slightly harder edge rocker, which was released shortly in the wake of Slade's triumphant live resurrection at the previous summer's Reading Festival. See previous Slade top 10 for details. Successfully sought to maintain their newfound career momentum by doing exactly what it says on the proverbial 10. As Daryl Easley aptly put it, quote, inspired by a chant Jim Lee heard the audience doing while waiting for the group to return to the stage at one show, he took it. Holder added his magic, and a rollicking new Slade song was born. Righteous, rambunctious, all faders up, all guns blazing. It was messy like punk and had all the precision of metal. Importantly, it sounded like they were having fun. In order to capture this sheer sense of fun, I'd like you to please react to the clip of the song being performed on Top of the Pops in 1981, as Slade once more returned to the BBC studios, which he had once dominated like a colossus, and proved, to my mind at least, Evan David says, that they hadn't lost a single step since. All right, excellent performance. Best performance I've seen him have on this top 10 so far, right? And part of it's the song, right? The song helps, but they had definitely not lost a step. Obviously, they're not performing live. Naughty's not singing live, so, it's the recorded version of the song, but did a great job of getting the audience involved. High energy. It was good. All right, coming in at number 5, we got You Boys Make Big Noise. First released as a single in July of 1987, reaching a relatively lowly 97 in the UK. This riotly raucous semi-parody of the sort of rap metal crossovers then being pioneered by the likes of the Beastie Boys, and whose title was apparently inspired by a remark to that effect by a tea lady as she was passing Slade's recording studio, nevertheless also possesses a wild power all its own, while Daryl Easley is surely correct when he says that the resulting tune is, quote, entirely professional, accomplished and very funny, and of course the band play and Holder raps with the Elon and professionalism you would expect. Little shout out to Mama, We're All Crazy Now. It was fine. I mean, it's so far my least favorite song here, but I mean, they're still good. It's just it's a product of its time, what they were doing there. I mean, I get it. They were doing kind of what was out there, but still not bad. Next up, we got Goodbye to Jane. First released as a single in November 72, reaching number 2 in the UK. This poundingly propulsive fan favorite Slade tune was apparently inspired by an encounter the band had with an eccentric woman of that name at an American TV studio while on tour. And whereas accounts vary as to her precise identity, what remains completely certain is that the song itself is still, as Daryl Easley puts it, quote, a great rocker. The record is tremendously loose with a rough and ready feel, partially due to the fact that it was done in just 2 takes. Impressive, end quote. Meanwhile, and quite interestingly perhaps, considering its American roots, Goodbye to Jane was also Slade's most successful U.S. single prior to the advent of Run Runaway, of which more later. That's a real tease there. Peaking at number 68 in the U.S., and accordingly, I'd like you to please react to this clip of being performed live on another American TV show, this time namely The Midnight Special, in June 1973. All right, Goodbye to Jane. Great performance, definitely glammed up, some more than others. Naughty's hat's going to blind you, right, the reflection off there, but they really bring it live. They have that energy, that genuine joy that Evan David has referenced a couple times. You really feel it in this. Next up at number 3, we got Take Me Back Home. First released as a single in May of 72, reaching 1 in the UK. As its title suggests, this passionately powerful tune was apparently inspired by the band's nagging sense of homesickness when faced with the often relentless demands made on their time by their aforementioned manager, Chaz Chandler, with drummer Don Powell, for one, recalling how, quote, Chaz was always trying to get us to hang around in London, and we wanted to go back home. After Top of the Pops or whatever, straight back home. We never thought about it. But at the time, London didn't hold any attraction for us, perhaps reflecting how strongly the band thus felt about the prospect of returning home. Meanwhile, guitarist Dave Hill, in turn, once remarked that, quote, I felt much more out of that song than I did from all the rest. It projected more, and it wasn't just a hit record. I didn't know if this was the kind of song could make it, and it was great having a thick, dirty song up at number 1. Evan Davis says, interestingly enough, meanwhile, and according to its co-writer Jim Lee, Take Me Back Home was an old song I'd been kicking around for ages. I revamped it a bit and nicked a phrase or two from the Beatles' Everybody's Got Something to Hide Except Me and My Monkey. Nobody ever noticed. As such, I'd be interested to see if Fab Four aficionado Sean, we'll see, it's been a while, can spot said phrase as well. Please reacting to the clip of being performed once again live on the aforementioned 2Gs and the Pop People TV show in June of 1972. All right, Take Me Back Home. Definitely added some people to the stage from the previous live performance we watched from this show. It was interesting. There was a girl dressed as each one of the guys, or semi-dressed up, but great energy. The crowd was really into this one. I could see why. A good song, but when you're watching a video like this, it's hard to kind of focus on the song at times, but really good. And next up at number 2, we got Ruby Red, first released as a single in March of 1982, reaching 51 in the UK. As Noddy Holder once explained a couple years after its release, this gleefully fun tale of voluptuously well-fed, good time girl was, quote, a number that we'd had around for a long time, but we never managed to get it down how we actually wanted it. Later, we remembered that we'd never been able to get Ruby Red down on tape properly, but that it was a good, strong commercial song. So we added some new riffs to it and got it down, end quote. As music writer and lifelong Slade fan Chris Ingram remarks, the resulting tune is a good latter-day instance of Slade's rock sensibilities being in harmony with their pop instincts. It wasn't a hit, but that's not a reflection on the quality of the record. Certainly remains one of my own personal favorite Slade tunes, Evan David says. Hence its high placing on this list, a choice which I hope you will agree. Ruby Red, an excellent song. Super enjoyed it. I'll get into this in my phase, but watching a video compared to listening to the audio, you can get into the song way, way, way more listening to the audio because you can focus on it. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but it was really good on this one to listen to it that way. I would drum roll it, but you can see it. Number 1 on Evan David's second top 10 list of Slade songs. Run, Runaway, first released as a single in January of 84, reaching 7 in the UK, and more significantly, perhaps number 20 in the US. According to Noddy Holder, we always wanted to do a jig with the old violin going in that. We decided to go in and put a sort of rock beat behind an old Scottish jig. The irresistibly infectious result was, as Daryl Easley aptly puts it, quote, an absolute hoot with virtually everything but the kitchen sink thrown in. The video, all battlements and tall hats, was perfectly eccentric enough to translate to the States, to playing another bunch of limeys up to something strange. It was perfect for heavy rotation on MTV. It is unsurprising then, Evan David says, this gleefully madcap tune still remains perhaps the most familiar Slade tune of all to American music lovers to this day, as Sean himself can doubtless attest. I already have, and it's very true. And as such, I'd like you to please react to said official video. All right, I know this video. I don't remember it, but as soon as I see it, I'll remember it because it was on heavy rotation. Like I said, I bought this cassette. There was one other song on this cassette that I really liked, or maybe two. I can't remember what they were. All right, Run, Runaway. It all came back to me, man. The riff on here, the guitar work, the drumming, all of it's fantastic. That's a powerhouse riff. Naughty, very entertaining. Definitely different for that time, which would have been on MTV, caught your attention, man. But it was every bit as good as I thought it would be. All right, let's get to the favorite tracks. Before we get to mine, we got to get to Evan David's usual long list of honorable mentions. My friend Stan, Kill 'Em at the Hot Club Tonight, When the Lights Are Out, Summer Song, Thanks for the Memory, Them Kind of Monkeys Can't Swing, Do We Still Do It, In for a Penny, Wheels Ain't Coming Down, and especially 2-track stereo, 1-track Mine, Little Sheila, Mysterious Mr. Jones, All Join Hands, and Give Us a Goal. Not to mention all the songs already featured in my first RTTC Slade Top 10, of course, which are going to be below. Now we'll get to my faves. Honorable mention, Get Down and Get With It, the number 10 song. Take Me Back Home, and then my faves are going to be Darling, Be Home Soon, the one from the Slade Alive, Every Day, Ruby Red, and Run, Runaway. So it's kind of going to be what I mentioned before. 3 of those faves, I have 4 faves. 3 of them were just audio only, and then Run, Runaway I already knew. So I like watching them perform, but from my aspect of me picking faves for you guys, I love the performances. There's no right or wrong way. Do you want to see it live? Do you want to listen to it? But to get into the song, you've got to more focus on the song, but a really good top 10. Once again, don't forget to go watch the first one. Let me know what you think of this down below. What are your faves? Thanks again to Evan David. Until next time, guys, I will see you.